The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and betrayal. I sat frozen as my boss, Victor Hale, stood before the board presenting my startup idea, word for word, slide for slide. Project Nova, he announced. My revolutionary AI logistics platform. My mouth went dry. The graphs, the tagline, the algorithm I'd developed during sleepless nights, everything was being stolen in real time. Brilliant work, Victor, one executive said. I wanted to scream. Victor turned, locking eyes with me, smirking, daring me to speak. My throat tightened. He knew I couldn't prove it. Not yet. But as the board applauded, I made a silent promise, this wasn't over. When the meeting ended, Victor approached. His cologne, metallic and sharp, mixed with my rising rage. Don't take it personally, Ivy, he whispered. The company owns everything you create here. You should be flattered if your idea was good enough to present. I wanted to slap him. But I smiled instead, because I knew something he didn't. Project Nova wasn't complete. I'd left a layer of code buried deep, a digital signature proving authorship. A silent trap. Thank you for the opportunity, I managed. As he walked away laughing, something shifted inside me. The naive engineer was gone. Someone dangerous had taken her place. In the restroom, I locked myself in a stall and cried. I'd spent 2 years developing Nova, 2 years of weekends and nights staring at code. It wasn't just work. It was my life's dream, my chance to build something that mattered. And it had been hijacked by a man who'd once told me I was too emotional for leadership. The fluorescent lights buzzed as I stared at my reflection, mascara smeared, hands shaking. I whispered through tears, you'll choke on your arrogance, Victor. Then I fixed my makeup and walked back to my cubicle. I wouldn't let tears be my legacy. My silence would be my weapon. By afternoon, the entire floor buzzed with news of Victor's brilliant innovation. I could hear whispers as people passed, some calling it genius, others wondering how he'd had time to develop something so sophisticated. No one knew the real architect sat in the corner cubicle. When I walked past Victor's office, he was laughing, my presentation glowing on his monitor. You'll thank me one day, Ivy, he said casually. I'm putting your idea on the map. You couldn't have done this alone. The gaslighting was breathtaking. Oh, I said softly, you have no idea where this is going, Victor. The double meaning sailed over his head. That was his fatal mistake, assuming I was forgettable. The next morning, HR called me in. Dread pooled in my stomach. Patricia gestured to a chair. We need to discuss concerns Victor has raised about your attitude and performance. My blood ran cold. She pulled out a thick folder. He's reported you've been difficult, uncooperative, resistant to feedback. We're putting you on probationary status. 60 days to improve or we'll discuss separation. Victor had built a paper trail while stealing my work, protecting himself, setting me up to be pushed out before I could fight back. I left numb, my future dissolving. But while Victor played politics, I played code. And in that world, I was God. That night, I opened the stolen Project Nova files I'd secretly backed up. My fingers hovered over the hidden subroutine I'd embedded months ago as insurance. I'd named it Athena, after the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. Athena would embed invisible metadata tags proving authorship beyond doubt. Once activated, it would leave a trail showing who'd actually created each component, timestamped with my unique developer ID. You wanted all the credit? I whispered. Then you'll get a crash course in truth. Athena will be watching. And when the time comes, she'll speak. I set activation for the upcoming board demo and closed my laptop with satisfaction that felt almost like peace. 2 days later, Victor strutted into the lab. Good news. We're doing a full Nova demo for investors this Friday. Venture capital firms, potential acquisitions, this is huge. My chest tightened. The Friday demo would activate Athena, marking every interaction with my encrypted signature. The trap would be set. But if anything went wrong, if my code was discovered prematurely, I'd be fired, possibly face legal action. The risk made my hands shake, but I nodded calmly. I'll make sure everything runs smoothly. Inside, I was counting down like a bomb technician. The fuse was lit. Only I knew when it would explode. Friday arrived. The demo dazzled everyone. Investors leaned forward, executives nodded, venture capitalists pulled out checkbooks. Victor basked in praise for his innovation, accepting congratulations with practiced humility. "This changes everything," one investor declared. I stood at the back, unnoticed, clutching my phone. A notification appeared, "Athena, activation confirmed. Metadata logging initiated." Every file Victor had accessed, every demo screen displayed, all marked with my encrypted developer ID. Digital proof that would hold up anywhere. I slipped out quietly while everyone celebrated. Let Victor enjoy his spotlight. Every file he touched was now mine, legally, digitally, and soon, publicly. That night, I couldn't sleep. I combed through system logs, verifying Athena was working. Every audit trail showed my encrypted signature on every piece of Nova code. But curiosity pulled me deeper. Using my admin credentials, I found something chilling in Victor's files, my original emails, stripped of metadata, with his signature added to forwarded versions sent to executives. He hadn't just stolen my work. He'd systematically rewritten history, creating a false paper trail. The premeditation was staggering. I stared at the evidence and felt something shift. This wasn't about one stolen project. This was a pattern, a system. The audacity almost made me laugh. Because now I knew exactly what I was dealing with. The company threw a celebration dinner. Crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing. Victor raised his glass. To innovation. And to teamwork. I stared into my champagne, watching bubbles rise. It tasted like acid. "Teamwork," I murmured, "when the thief wears a designer tie." My coworkers clapped enthusiastically. Nobody saw the venom behind my smile. Nobody understood that every word of praise was another nail in his eventual coffin. Let them cheer. The higher he rose on my stolen work, the farther he'd fall when truth broke through his lies. "Enjoying the party?" Victor appeared, slightly drunk. "You should be proud." "Proud," I repeated, tasting poison. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. Next morning, a strange email appeared, sender anonymous, "You're not the first." Inside were 2 NDAs signed by women who'd left the company after disputes over intellectual property. Both had worked in Victor's department. The pattern was clear. Victor had done this before, found talented engineers, extracted their ideas, then pushed them out. I wasn't random. I was his latest target. At the bottom, he destroyed our careers. Don't let him destroy yours. Call me. A phone number followed. I stared, mind racing. Was this a trap? Or genuine allies? I typed, "Let's talk." But carefully. Within an hour, coffee. Tomorrow. Lighthouse Cafe. 10 a.m. Come alone. My army was forming. The Lighthouse Cafe was small, cracked leather booths, checkered floors, bacon grease and coffee smells. 3 women sat in back, watching me approach with hope and wariness. Olivia, a former senior developer. Simone, an ex-project manager. Hannah, who'd been pushed out 18 months before I was hired, to make room for me, the next victim. Each had my story. Brilliant ideas shared with Victor that became his projects. Then HR complaints, probation, forced resignation. He has a system, Olivia explained, spreading documents. He targets talented women specifically. Mentors us to gain trust, extracts our work, then undermines us until we leave. I left with a folder thick enough to bury Victor's career. But I didn't just want exposure. I wanted justice, poetic and devastating. Monday, Victor stormed into IT. "Something's wrong with Nova. Files are acting strange. Metadata is corrupted. Fix it immediately." Athena had begun her work, embedding invisible timestamps throughout the system. To Victor, it looked like corruption. To anyone who knew, it was a roadmap of truth. Panic flickered in his eyes. I watched, feigning confusion. That's weird. Must be a system bug. Want me to look? No, he snapped. Stay out of it. His paranoia was showing. He suspected something but couldn't admit the theft. He was trapped, and the bars were tightening. I hid my smile behind coffee. The system's bug was me, rewriting history back to truth. 2 weeks later, corporate compliance mysteriously initiated an audit. Victor didn't know I'd requested it using my hidden admin ID weeks ago. The auditors were thorough, requesting system logs, file ownership records, development timelines. Standard procedure, they assured pale-faced Victor. I'd prepared comprehensive documentation, delivered anonymously. Athena's logs showing my developer ID. The original emails. Comparison analyses of coding styles. Ms. Morgan, we need to ask about Project Nova, an auditor said. Victor's head snapped up. I met his eyes calmly. Happy to help. His face went chalk white. He knew what they'd find. He was finally understanding he'd severely underestimated me. The questioning took 3 hours. I answered truthfully, providing documentation, screenshots, emails, code repositories. You're saying Mr. Hale presented this as his own? The lead auditor asked. The code speaks for itself. Every component carries my digital signature. Victor tried to interrupt. She's unstable. This is sabotage. I pulled out the folder from my meeting with the other women. Then explain why 3 other women have similar complaints? With documentation? The auditors exchanged glances. All 3? And now Ms. Morgan? Quite a pattern. His gaslighting was failing. The walls were closing in. And for the first time, I felt hope mixed with satisfaction. That evening, Victor cornered me in the parking garage. His face was harsh in fluorescent light. He grabbed my arm hard. You think you've won? He hissed. I'll bury you. You'll never work in this industry again. His breath smelled like whiskey and desperation. Fear flickered through me. We were alone, and he was bigger, stronger, angrier. But I'd learned I was stronger than I knew. I built this company's future, I said, pulling free. You just stole blueprints. And Victor? Thieves always get caught. I drove away, watching him stand alone under flickering lights. He looked smaller, diminished, like a balloon losing air. The final phase was beginning. That weekend, I uploaded complete audit results to an encrypted journalist Dropbox. Within days, tech reporter Angela Wu emailed, "These files are explosive. If accurate, this is a major story. But I need more." I replied carefully, "There's more coming. Wait for official findings. Then we'll talk." This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was about changing the system, exposing the pattern, making sure Victor couldn't do this again. The trap was set. The evidence compiled. The witnesses are ready. Now I just had to wait for the board to see what I'd been showing them. Their golden boy was a fraud. 1 week later, the board called an emergency meeting. Victor was summoned without warning. I wasn't invited, but Olivia's board connections kept me updated. They're going through the compliance report. Victor's trying to talk his way out. The chair asked him to explain your digital signature on every file. He's saying it's a glitch. They're running the code now. Live. Your name just appeared. Glowing. Undeniable. Ivy Morgan, original creator. Hale just got fired. Security is walking him out. I stared at that last text, trying to process that it was real, that justice had somehow broken through. Then I walked to my balcony and screamed into the night, part triumph, part release, part disbelief. Victor's empire crumbled overnight. Stock options frozen. Accounts locked. Name stripped from documentation. The board opened a full review of every project he'd claimed. 2 days later, he showed up at my cubicle one last time. He looked terrible, unshaven, rumpled, wild-eyed. "You set me up," he shouted. "You planted that code." I stood slowly, meeting his eyes with unnatural calm. "No. I set myself free. There's a difference. You ruined my life. You ruined your own life. I just documented the truth." Security arrived, escorting him out. He went shouting threats until elevator doors closed in his rage. I began packing my things, not in defeat, but because I needed a much bigger office. The board called me in. Same conference room where Victor had stolen my presentation, but the energy was completely different. "Ms. Morgan, we owe you an apology. What happened represents a serious failure in our culture. We're committed to making this right." They offered me leadership of Project Nova, full control, back pay, public acknowledgement. But I had conditions. I want complete restructuring of innovation policy. Clear attribution requirements. An ombudsman for IP disputes. Protection for whistleblowers. The board exchanged glances. What I asked was substantial. "We agree," the chairwoman said. "All of it. We never want this to happen again." I signed that afternoon, my signature bold and permanent. Not as a victim, but as a leader. Angela Wu's article hit like a bomb. Female engineer outsmarts CEO who stole her startup idea, then exposed pattern of systematic theft. It went viral, thousands of shares, people sending it everywhere shocked. Victor became an instant meme, his face plastered across social media. My inbox exploded, other women sharing stories, journalists requesting interviews, companies asking me to speak, VCs offering funding. But I didn't gloat. I'd seen too many women crushed for being difficult. "I'm glad the truth came out," I told Angela. "But real change won't be whether one man got fired. It'll be whether we fix the systems that enabled theft." That quote got shared almost as much. Because it wasn't about me anymore. 3 weeks later, Victor showed up at my new office. He looked broken, older, defeated. "You ruined me," he said quietly. "My career is over. Reputation destroyed. Getting divorced. Everything's gone." I studied him. Part of me wanted triumph. But mostly I felt tired. "No, Victor. You did that. Every choice, every theft, every lie, those were yours. I just made sure the truth couldn't stay buried." "What was your trap?" I almost didn't answer. "Integrity," I said finally. "That was my trap. I built something real with my name woven into every line. You stole the surface but never understood the foundation. You can't steal integrity. You either have it or you don't." He left without another word, looking smaller than ever. 6 months later, Project Nova launched under my leadership, officially, publicly, with my name everywhere. Investors had increased funding. Impressed by both the technology and my backbone. My team grew to include the women Victor had pushed out. We built something beautiful, transparent, collaborative, fair, unstoppable. Athena ran quietly in the background, not as a trap anymore, but as a guardian. A digital protector ensuring every contributor's name stayed visible. "No one gets erased again," I told my team. "Not on my watch." The room erupted in applause. For the first time in years, I felt exactly where I belonged. One night, working late, I walked past the old conference room where Victor had stolen my presentation. It was empty, dark, ghosts lingering. I stood in the doorway and let myself remember the humiliation, the rage, the desperate fear I'd never get justice. "You can't steal what was never yours," I whispered to the empty room, to my younger self who'd walked out shattered. Then I closed the door and went back to my office, where real work was happening, where the future I'd almost lost was becoming reality. For the first time in years, I slept soundly. No nightmares. Just dreams of building, creating, innovating, with my name on every line. Looking back, I realize betrayal isn't the end, it's a plot twist you can rewrite. Victor thought he'd stolen my future. Instead, he built my platform, gave me a reason to fight harder than ever. The trap wasn't really Athena or code or proof. It was patience mixed with preparation. It was refusing to burn bridges when you could electrify them instead, making them so bright with truth no one could ignore the path forward. Victor wanted easy success on stolen dreams. I wanted to build something that lasted, that mattered, that carried everyone's names. We both got what we really wanted. He got exposure, his face as a cautionary tale. I got exposure too, as someone who stood up and won. The betrayal blueprint isn't about revenge. It's about refusing to let theft define your worth. It's about fighting smart instead of loud. It's about understanding the best way to defeat a thief isn't destroying them, it's thriving so completely their theft becomes irrelevant. Victor thought he could steal my future. He just delayed it while I built something even better. The code doesn't lie. Truth doesn't hide forever. And women who refuse silence? We don't just survive betrayal. We transform it into an empire. That's the blueprint. That's the trap. That's the justice when patience meets preparation meets refusal to accept defeat. Victor? Wherever he is, I hope he learned, you can't steal integrity. You either build it or you don't. Everything built on theft eventually collapses. I'm still standing. That's victory enough. Kindly, subscribe for more daily stories.